Good morning. It's Friday, November the 27th, Black Friday, and this is The Drill. Thank you. The prayer of the day. Dear Lord, thank you for Justice Barrett on the Supreme Court. Justice Barrett made the difference in yesterday's decision defeating the lockdowns of your houses of worship. Amen. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. Who is the true conservative? First and foremost, he is realistic. Second, he is God-fearing. The true conservative is the man who follows his plan. He's appropriate. He's the person that has the courage of his convictions and is confident in what he knows. He's the person that subordinates politics to reality. He's not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He is patriotic and uses common sense. He is judgmental and moralizes. He refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He's open-minded, asking why, rather than why not. He's consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, and unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He's a normal American, and he's better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that being a true conservative is best, or you are wasting your time. Additional examples of what it means to be a true conservative can be heard by listening to John Cobelt and Ken Champeau on the John and Ken Show on KFI AM 640 Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. My podcast is short, approximately 5 to 20 minutes long, because shorter podcasts are easier to download and listen to. The biggest socio-political influences in my life are my parents, my teachers, Hugh Hewitt, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Dennis Prager, Buck Sexton, Joe Pags, the Enlightenment, Ayn Rand, and Dr. Mortimer Adler. My podcast is made available through Spreaker and can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. I can be reached at thedrill12@gmail.com. Today, a question from a listener. Where do we stand? The Six Commandments, quote of the day, how to win conservative vocabulary, how to think about the stimulus, conservative aphorisms, socialist aphorisms, and socialist vocabulary. All that when I come back. Thank you. The day before yesterday, I received a question, a surprisingly cogent question from a YouTube subscriber. The question is as follows. Do you think that any politicians actually care for the causes of society in general? Example, Donald Trump was a Democrat prior to running as a Republican. You see the person you see the conservative base rally around him as he touts their values. I believe he's done a lot of what he said he would, but I don't know that he or any politician truly holds the values they for a short time promote. I'm pretty straightforward on my podcast in stating that I believe that politics is a game and corrupts anyone who plays it. Chattervast. My response, yes, Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. Ronald Reagan used to be a Democrat. Ronald Reagan explained his decision to leave the Democrat Party, saying that the Democrats had moved too far to the left. There's nothing wrong with you changing your mind, as long as you admit that you have changed your mind and explain why. This goes for policy changes as well as political party changes. Too many politicians change their mind or flip-flop and then pretend that they have not changed their mind, being duplicitous. Joe Biden's positions on mandatory mask wearing and fracking are classic examples. Too much emphasis is placed on politics and politicians, by the way, and not enough on something we can control, you and I, culture. The legalization of the recreational use of marijuana, for instance. We, Republicans, lost control of the debate, and now 12 states have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. We lost control of the debate by being conned into trying to prove a negative, and since proving a negative is impossible, we lost. Every argument begins by presuming the status quo, and with marijuana that meant facing prison time for possession. The left should have been made to convince the rest of us that imprisoning somebody for using marijuana was an obviously bad thing. Instead, they were able to bully and intimidate conservatives into going along with the program. The tendency to bully and intimidate rather than use reasoned arguments is dominant in our culture. When you and I change the culture, the politicians and the laws will change along with it. The biggest problem with the news, besides undeclared bias, is the lack of continuity, and I decided to take issues facing the country and report on them daily until the story is complete. Hence, where do we stand? There's lawsuits that have been filed, apparently in Pennsylvania, and now we're waiting for a trial date or a hearing. That's what we're waiting for here, is a hearing, which I'm hoping will happen sooner rather than later. Rudy Giuliani and his team testified before the Pennsylvania state legislature that there was widespread voting fraud in this election. The presentation was impressive, it was professional, direct, and unequivocal. Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. The Republicans have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, and we found out yesterday how important that was, particularly with Amy Barrett, because apparently the Chief Justice cannot be relied upon to provide a solid Republican or conservative voice on the court. As one pundit put it, that he thought that Chief Justice Roberts had was moving to the left every once in a while, and depending on, I guess, on his mood, but he now realizes after this last decision that Chief Justice Roberts has just simply moved left, period. So, we Republicans, again, we have a 6-3 majority in the Supreme Court, and we've gained at least 8 seats in the House of Representatives. And so it's the narrowest margin and the narrowest lead for the Democrats in 50 years. The Senate is currently 50-48 in favor of the Republicans with 2 races outstanding. By the way, the senators have the guts to ask us for more donations to help win these races. The Republicans have 27 governorships to the Democrats' 23. Republicans control 55 of 99 state legislative chambers. President Trump and his team are fighting massive voter fraud. 4 more states have lost their mind and legalized the recreational use of marijuana, and the state of California is about to go completely insane by creating a ballot measure to decriminalize magic mushrooms, heroin, and cocaine. This is what the left does. It creates a foundation and then builds on it. The monster that has been arraigned for shooting 2 Los Angeles sheriff's deputies should, if there's any real justice, get the death penalty. George Soros still is not dead yet, but I sure wish he was. No law enforcement union has yet been decertified, and no laws shielding officers from prosecution have yet been repealed, and that's dangerous. The most unpatriotic piece of legislation, the Patriot Act, is still the law of the land, mocking the Constitution and creating the blueprint for the autocratic rule in this pandemic. New York Times v. Sullivan continues to encourage news people to be super citizens who can use unnamed sources to slander and defame people at will without fear of consequences, meaning they can't be fired, they can't be sued, they can't be criminally prosecuted. New York Times v. Sullivan should be overturned. Where's the expose on the Washington Press Corps? Where's nonprofit news? The communist flu continues. Blue Cross and Kaiser Permanente continue to take our premiums while they use lockdowns to avoid paying claims. Governor Newsom has enacted a racist scheme to keep California's lockdown indefinitely. When I come back, conservative vocabulary. Thank you. There's more to being a true conservative than how you vote. If you want to be a true conservative, then you have to act, think, and talk like a true conservative. Hence, conservative vocabulary. Words like no and go back. You never hear a politician, a conservative politician or a Republican say the words go back. We need to go back to. Never. You just don't hear it. And it should be brought back. Conservatives should not feel afraid to use those words. Acceptance, mind your own business from now on. Right, wrong, should, good, bad, evil, reality, certainty, morality, beauty, and polity. These are terms that the left doesn't want us to use because they're realistic. How to win? Follow the conservative commandments. Number 1, thou shalt not be neutral. Number 2, thou shalt not be pragmatic. Number 3, thou shalt not be idealistic. Number 4, thou shalt not subscribe to the cult of expertise. Number 5, thou shalt mind thy own business. And number 6, thou shalt keep thy curiosity in check. When some lefty asks, where is all the evidence of election fraud? The best answer is, evidence to satisfy whom? The quote of the day, quote, poverty is not the root cause of crime, unquote, Rush Limbaugh. As conservatives, we make the presumption for the status quo and change only when there's an obvious or prima facie case for change. However, many of the changes that our civilization has seen are not necessary, but gratuitous. And the following is a list of ideas, concepts, and abstractions that should not have been changed, and so they should be brought back. Bring back normality, sanity, privacy, property rights, the pre-1970 filibuster, outlawry, single-income households, integration, parenting, and along with it, corporal punishment, the primacy of existence, certainty of knowledge, and universal rights and wrongs. Bring back principled behavior, masculinity and femininity, Adam 12, John F. Kennedy, the gold standard, pre-HMO medical care, non-profit news, civil service, the term stupid question, arguments and fights, the cultural influence of the church and the Boy Scouts. Bring back the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. Bring back bowling. Bring back linear thinking. Bring back smart. Be of good cheer. The universe is benevolent and success is to be expected. Therefore, the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win. Think about it. How to think about the stimulus. I've heard recently many right-wing pundits complain that the American people are not doing anything about the new lockdowns in the state of California and elsewhere. I knew that there was some sort of a psychological block that people were experiencing, but until recently I couldn't figure out what kind. I was listening to the radio and the subject was the second stimulus, and that's when I realized what the psychological block was that was preventing people from protesting. The stimulus program. In effect, when we accepted stimulus payments, we, the people of the United States of America, rented out the Constitution to our political office holders for $1,200 down and $600 a week. We traded our independence for money, and now we are stuck. No one will protest too loud because it is never wise to bite the hand that feeds you. Conservative aphorisms. Why? Who asked you? Who cares? Who is we? Are you sure? How do you know? No, you don't understand. No, you are not listening. No, you're not a leader or a change agent. Who died and left you in charge? Who told you that? You don't know? When are you going to figure it out? And my personal favorite, get off of my lawn. Socialist aphorisms. Subvert the dominant paradigm. Question authority. Question everything. Coexist. Up next, socialist vocabulary. Thank you. Since nobody wears a uniform, how do you identify socialists in your midst? By their vocabulary, by the way they speak. Socialist vocabulary includes such words as stakeholders, Latinx, empower, going forward, mansplaining, politically correct, supportive, hegemony, organic, grassroots, code word, dog whistle, buy-in, pushback, stuck on stupid, walk it back, and the masses. The ICE tip line is 866-347-2423. The White House switchboard is 202-456-1111 or 202-456-1414. The Senate House switchboard is 202-224-3121. Back in a minute. Who is the socialist? He's the man that seeks consensus rather than develop his own opinions. He's subjective, petty, and small, taking everything in life personally. He's outrageous, jaded, boring, and rude. He pretends to be a leader and a change agent. He's manipulative, he's sly, cunning, and deceptive. He dresses, acts, and speaks like a child. He's informal and terminally unique. He's childish and pretends that he knows nothing. He's pragmatic and ignores his conscience and pretends that might makes right and the ends justify the means. He acts randomly and rationalizes his behavior, deterministic, blaming others for his mistakes, skeptical, demanding that others solve his problems. His unreasonableness and irresponsibility make him a bad role model and a bad father, brother, family member, friend, and a bad person, period. So that if you think you should be friends with a socialist, think again. Coming up on the next episode, how feminism failed American women. And that concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and always ask yourself, what is real? How do I know? And what should I do about it? I'm Ron, and that's The Drill.